Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the City Guys podcast. Today, we're going to be recapping the previous match week against the Portland Timbers, and we'll get into a little bit of analysis and then some predictions for this upcoming match week at home against LA Galaxy. So, Rude, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Fletcher, how about yourself?
Could be doing better. Tough seeing City lose like that, especially in a game that we feel like we should have won. But I think we should just jump right into this.
Yeah.
Going away to Portland, which Portland is a pretty solid team in the MLS. I believe they were in fourth or fifth in the West before the match. I don't. They're probably up there now, but we went into this game honestly a little bit more optimistic, coming off of a win against San Jose. We felt like we had a chance to maybe get a result in this game, and that's kind of what it seemed like early on, because it seemed like that first half that St. Louis City were by far the better team against Portland. And really, it was just we could not finish any of our chances. I mean, we had the one disaster in front of the net where three guys missed an open goal. But honestly, I thought we looked pretty solid in that first half. What'd you think?
I thought we were pretty solid. I thought Anthony, that Portland player who's named after the GOAT, I think, but yeah, he was causing a lot of problems on that left wing. Who
Mhm.
was defending him? I'm not sure. Was that Zelensky that started right back? I don't know who started at right
Yeah, I
back.
believe
It's
so.
either Totland or
No, it was
Zelensky.
Toland. It was
Toland.
Toland.
Yeah, and he was causing a lot of problems on that left flank. And it was pretty
Mhm.
evident the entire game because, I mean, you could even hear, like, the bench was just like, you get the ball to Anthony, get the ball to Anthony, because, he was, like, their most impactful player on the entire Portland side.
Mhm.
So, yeah, he caused us a lot of problems, but I thought in general the team played pretty well. I mean, a star performer, from my opinion, was Celio. He created a lot of chances. But yeah, basically, we made do with what we had. Of course, we had a couple injuries with Lewin being out. I think Durkin was out. Toysher was out. Who
Yeah.
else is out? We've had a lot of
I'll
injuries. Yeah, Alm is out, and then Joachim Nilsson, of course. I don't know when he's coming back, like July or something. But yeah, we made do with with all the injuries that we had. But in general, I thought it was a solid performance. We definitely should have. I still think that finishing is one of our biggest issues on this team. Like we need to get more goals,
mm,
and finishing is a big issue with that. So I don't know. I thought
yeah.
it was an okay performance from City.
Yeah, I completely agree with the finishing. At the end of the day, I feel like this match actually evened out, especially in the second half. St. Louis City came out after halftime on fire. That's when we scored our goal about in the 50th minute, and we had all the momentum for probably the first 10 minutes coming out of half. And then everything just fell apart, and we just looked lost out there, desperately
Yeah,
trying to hang on, while Portland was really cooking us, especially on the flanks with their wingers. Um, but really, the difference from this game, I felt like, was that Portland was able to finish their chances and we weren't.
yeah,
Because City actually had the higher XG in this game, significantly higher by two, about like a 2.5 to a 1.7. And we had seven big chances according to FotMob in this game. So only scoring one goal after having seven big chances and a 2.5 XG is pretty terrible. I
it's
mean,
horrendous.
it's pretty brutal. But I guess the optimistic way of looking at it is we are actually creating chances now, um, which is something we haven't done really the majority of all season with Mellberg.
Hmm.
We've created a pretty decent amount of chances these last two games
Yeah,
with Critchley at the helm. So that is something I think that's a little bit optimistic and you could take away from this game. I don't think it was the worst performance in the world. The way it ended, though, is just absolutely brutal. With that was a, like 92nd minute game winner that Portland scored off a corner. It was just a defensive error.
yeah.
Someone
No one
just
was
completely
marking.
missed their man.
Yeah,
Yeah, just kind of an inexcusable goal, absolutely demoralizing goal to give up at the end of this game because I feel like City really deserved to come away with at least a point from this game because I don't think I don't think Portland played super well in
No,
this game. It is worth noting it was like 100 degrees
it
outside when this
was.
game
Yeah, it
was
was really
played,
bad.
which I think really affected the game because everyone looked absolutely gassed at the end of this game, and I think that's might have contributed to the defensive error at the end. Maybe
Yeah.
the minds were a little swollen. Nobody, everyone was losing brain cells, getting them fried out there. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't think Portland looked super great in this game, to be honest. And I think this was kind of a missed opportunity. This was a very winnable game. Which, if we would have gotten a win here, this would have been huge for us. But unfortunately, we're walking away with another loss. And the story continues from last year of us just being unable to do anything on the road.
Yeah, I completely agree. And yeah, Portland didn't have their best showing. Um, yeah, I think it was like the first half. I heard that when I was watching it, the commentators were talking about the game, and they were like, Portland is playing really bad. If anything, St. Louis City was the
Mhm.
better side because Portland could barely string like three passes together. Um, they just kept on losing the ball in
Mhm.
like, I don't know, just really bad spaces. And then, yeah, Portland kind of worked their way back into this game. And yeah, St. Louis City, it's been an issue all season with finishing.
Mhm.
Finishing has been our biggest problem, I think, other than, I don't know, like getting control of that midfield. But yeah, if it goes back all the way to like week 2. If you remember that LA Galaxy win when we won 3-0,
Mhm.
that game could have easily gone, and that could have easily been either a LA Galaxy win or either a 3-3 draw between both of our sides.
Yeah.
And it just comes down to, yeah, St. Louis City missed a lot of chances even in that game. Yeah, we still scored 3 goals, but it could have been a lot more in that LA Galaxy game. And then it also goes to show that if other teams start finishing their chances and we don't convert ours, we're going to lose games, which is exactly what happened right here. Where Portland got their chances, Portland
Mhm.
scored their chances, but we couldn't do anything with the ball. We couldn't score our chances that we got. So finishing is one of our biggest issues, and I really do think that the team really needs to work on that. But I do think
Mhm.
that under Critchley, the team has been playing a lot better in a sense than what Melberg had previously. Because I mean, even we were out of what Lewin was out. Conrad Valum had that red card suspension, and then Durkin
Yeah.
was out. So that's basically 3 of our starting midfielders that are out, and we
Mhm.
still had a pretty competitive game with Portland. You could say. I mean, it was still 100 degrees outside, so of course people
Yeah.
are going to be making mistakes here and there because it's just too hot to think. But yeah, I thought the team played pretty well with what we had to work with, and yeah, Critchley's been pretty good with this team. That's my takeaway from this. That's my positive takeaway from this game.
Yeah. I mean, I just had a few takeaways, I think, from this game. The first is I wanted to talk about the back four briefly,
Yeah.
because I think we talked about this before the game, that this is honestly kind of our ideal back four out there with Kessler, Baumgartel, Reed, and Totland.
Yeah.
Because Baumgartel and Kessler are phenomenal defensively as center backs, and then Totland and Reed can offer some options going forward that maybe our previous guys couldn't really.
Hmm.
But I thought the back four was okay. I thought Baumgartel played pretty solidly. I thought Kessler actually had a pretty poor game. That goal that Anthony scored, the first goal that Portland scored,
Yeah.
Anthony kind of just took the ball all the way through the midfield, and Kessler was kind of there, and he kind of backed up all the way inside our box and let Anthony dribble the ball up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know if he just didn't realize that he had Baumgartel behind him to his left. But you gotta press Anthony. You can't let him dribble the ball all the way up in open space, especially when you have your other center back right behind you that can cover for you if he gets by.
Yeah.
So I thought that was just a really bad kind of elementary kind of mistake that Kessler made, which is very frustrating. But it's something to work on, and their wingers are very good. Portland's wingers were both very good. So I think it was more of a case of just their wingers being super talented, but both of our fullbacks kind of got cooked. I mean, Jaden Reed was never kind of billed to be a super great defensive guy. He was always kind of a attacking first fullback. But I mean, he kind of got cooked, and I mean, Totland was getting cooked by Anthony all game, which was
Yeah.
kind of, I expected a little bit of a better performance from Totland. I kind of rate him very highly, so I was a little disappointed by that.
Yeah.
But I think our back four going forward, you could also chalk this up to maybe the temperature, being 100 degrees. It was probably the hardest conditions we played in all year. So, we'll see. But I thought it was kind of a disappointing performance from that back four. I don't know if you had any thoughts on that.
I I agree with you. I thought it wasn't the strongest showing from our back four. It doesn't really help when Anthony's just cooking everybody right and
Mhm.
left. And yeah, that Kessler mistake cost us that goal. But looking at that goal though, that was still low key like a world class goal. You know, that
Yeah, it
finish.
was.
Yeah, sure, Kessler could have been there, but like, there's not much even Berkey could have done against that because it was
Mhm.
like that curler that ended up in the side netting from like the top, like near the top of the box. So it was
Mhm.
just like really unfortunate. But yeah, even the back line was getting torched. I completely agree with you. Toland and Reed were just getting ran through. And yeah, Baumgartel, I do agree, had probably the strongest showing out of our back four. Um, I do want to kind of move on to our midfield, which is a pretty makeshift midfield,
Mhm.
Um, Alfredo Morales, Akil Watts, Simon Betcher, and Hartel kind of switched in and out from that midfield. So it looked like, I mean, this was by far like not our starting midfield. But Akil
Right.
Watts, I mean, he got his first goal of the season here. I thought he
Mhm.
had a pretty decent game. I thought out of all the midfielders, actually maybe Hartel, I thought Akil Watts was a pretty standout performer here in this game. I thought he was creating a lot of chances. Before he even
Mhm.
scored that goal, I think he had another chance on net that I don't think he was able to convert, which is another converting issue in my opinion. But Akil Watts was getting those chances, and yeah, he took them, and one of them ended up back in the back of the net. So I liked what I saw from Akil Watts.
Yeah, I thought the midfield was pretty solid considering it wasn't any of our first options out there. Um, and yeah, I thought Watts had one of his better games of the season. Obviously, it's helped by the fact that he did score, but I thought it was actually pretty decent out
Mm-hmm.
there. And like you said, I thought Marcel Hartel actually had a really good game.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty clear. I felt like that he was just the most dangerous player on our team whenever he had the ball, and
Mm-hmm.
it was just everything kind of ran through him, and he was creating a ton of chances. And he's been really good, I think, as of recent, after a
Yeah.
really slow start to the season. So that's really good to see from him. And the other thing that I wanted to mention was Klaus. The commentators actually like mention this every single game. They're like, whenever Klaus gets subbed off, that's kind of when the energy and the pressing and the momentum that City have kind of disappears. He's kind
I
of like,
yeah.
it feels like at times he's kind of like the engine of the team, and even though maybe he doesn't have the biggest impact on the score sheet or create a ton of opportunities directly, he's creating a lot of chances indirectly because he's kind of opening up the defense a little bit. He's pressing, he's creating mistakes, and that's something you don't really see a ton from anyone else on City. He's kind of one of those last, uh, I don't know what the word is I'm thinking of, but kind of like last guys from that OG team
Uh-huh.
that was kind of built on pressing and that
Ye-
gegenpress style.
yeah.
And I think you could definitely see that because I think with the way he plays, it has an impact on everyone else. And City, the biggest problem with City this year has just been our substitutes, and just usually whenever we sub or near the end of games is when we collapse and lose games.
Yeah.
And I think honestly, Klaus, it has a bigger impact on it than I think a lot of people think. Because even though he's not necessarily on the score sheet and his stats aren't the best, he has a lot of like indirect effects on the
Mhm.
game. Is kind of my takeaway.
I completely agree with you. And I mean, yeah, sure, Klaus didn't show up on the stat sheet, but he very well could have. Of
Hmm.
course, on that, really bad sequence where three of our players were shooting on the net
Hmm.
and none of them scored. Klaus is one of those players. He had like an XG of like .94. It was something really
Yeah.
high. So yeah, yeah, I
And
completely agree
then
with you. What's up?
I was just gonna say he also had another chance later on in the game where he kind of skied it right over the crossbar. So he had
Yeah,
two really good
yeah,
chances. He should
yeah,
have scored 2 goals in this game.
yeah. So yeah, once again, the converting issue is here. But yeah, Klaus, I completely agree with you. And I feel like another big issue here is that we don't have anybody else who kind of fits similarly to that Klaus playstyle on the bench.
Right.
So Simon Betcher, right? He usually comes off the bench,
Hmm.
assuming that we have a pretty healthy lineup. And Simon Betcher is not at all similar to Klaus, so he can't really fulfill the same duties as Klaus would,
Hmm.
which is another reason why we concede a lot of goals because he's not that type of player. I feel like Simon Betcher is more of a second striker where you kind of play him off of another guy, but
Yeah.
he's not meant to be that number nine. But yeah, Klaus, I really do love his energy. He brings a lot to this team. And if the team does try to go for a number nine in the summer, I really do got a feel for Klaus because he's putting everything into this team right now.
Hmm.
And yeah, I really do love him. It's nice that he got his first goal. I think in a couple of weeks now, MLS goal since like what Columbus.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, he's finally scored again. But yeah, he's getting chances, and yeah, I feel like he's converting is just the biggest issue with Klaus now. But yeah, his energy off the ball is very very good.
Yeah, I agree, and it'll be interesting to see what City does going into the summer. Honestly, I wouldn't expect them to be super busy in this summer transfer window, just because we're at a point with an interim manager who we don't know if he's going to be here long term or not,
Yeah.
and kind of with the amount that we spent and the turnover that we had last year, I would be kind of surprised. Maybe I could see one move, but I would be kind of surprised if we made a ton of big changes in this offseason or in
Yeah,
this transfer window.
I'd just say that we're probably going to lose what Giannis Horn is probably going to be gone if he's not already
Yeah,
gone,
yeah.
and then Blom. I do think that
Mhm,
Blom. I did rate the player couple like
mhm.
what in our inaugural season. Blom was so good, but it Blom. I feel like we do need to get rid of him because he just did not want to play at San Jose City. A lot of issues with Bradley Carnell before he got loaned out, and then
Mhm.
apparently now at the team that he's playing right now for, I think it's like Kaiser FC or something in South Africa.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
barely played at all for them. Like he's barely like I don't think he's played a lot of minutes for them either. And another thing
Mhm.
there's been issues with the manager. So at some point you might have to realize that it might not be a managerial issue. It might be something with the player. So I
Mhm.
don't think St. Louis City should kind of make the effort to keep him when there's not really too much you're getting out from him. But yeah, I do think that Blom will
Yeah.
be a departure from the squad, and then Giannis Horn, of course.
Mhm.
So we might bring in like one new player. I don't think it'll be like a super big player, but I feel like it'd be a good depth piece to get somebody.
Yeah, I like I said, I would expect there to be at least one
Mm,
move, but I don't think we'll see anything like we
no.
did last summer where we
Oh
had,
yeah.
2 or 3
Yeah.
really big
Yeah.
transfers.
Yeah.
Because I just don't think that's really in the cards right now. And honestly, I think the biggest goal right now should be trying to figure out what we like the value we have with our
You with
current
that you have.
players.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
because at this point, like I don't know, as much as we want to talk about like, oh, there's a chance we could go on a run and make the playoffs or whatever. I feel like this season is kind of turning into a wash, pretty fast here. So it's kind of turning into, can we stabilize this thing and can we, we need to figure out what players we need to keep for the future and what guys we need to replace and try and build towards that. Yeah.
I completely agree. Now, moving on, we have a match this weekend before the Club World Cup, like I don't know,
Hmm.
Gold Cup, break. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, we're facing LA Galaxy at home on Saturday. What are your thoughts about this, Fletcher?
Well, LA Galaxy is are
No
they still the
longer.
worst team?
They
No longer the worst team?
um I think they
Maybe
might
behind
be.
Montreal.
Yeah, in the West, they're still currently the worst team. How about that?
Okay.
We're the second worst team in the West, though. But
So, yeah.
yeah. LA Galaxy is no longer winless. They've won a game at least. So I don't know. I feel like this is a tough. This is still a tough game. I feel like still because we're not much better of a team than LA
Mhm.
Galaxy has been. But yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts? Initial thoughts about this game?
Uh, well, I think going into this game, LA Galaxy is coming off of a 1-0 loss to San Jose. They've been just absolutely dreadful. LA Galaxy, that is. They've been absolutely dreadful this entire year. So going into this game at home
Mm,
after two, even though we didn't, I thought pretty decent performances our last 2 weeks. I feel like going into this game, the expectation is that we win. I really
yeah,
do. I think this is one of playing against a team that's worse than us, which is pretty hard to do. Um, and going into um, I don't know, going into this part of the season where we're kind of getting into the middle of the season here, where it's time to start picking up points, or we're gonna fall really far behind. Um, I think getting 3 points against LA is almost like this is almost a must-win game in my opinion.
yeah, I completely agree. And yeah, LA Galaxy they did come off of that pretty decent win against Real Salt Lake last match week. So
Mhm.
it was a 2-0 win. But yeah, I do think that having that atmosphere at home and the team has been playing like reasonably well. Like we've been playing pretty
Mhm.
well. I'm not sure when Lewin will come back, but we probably will have Conrad Balam will be back. Um, so I think that this would be a must win game because this is obviously a team that's actually worse than us because which is really hard as you
Mhm.
said because we are like the second worst team in the West. So we need to pick up points right here. Like this is like
Mhm.
a must. I think this is a must-win game because you have to
Yeah.
take your points where you can get them, and this is a game that we can really come in and take these 3 points with a commanding performance. So I think that I'll go with a 2-0 win for City. I'll take a 2-0 win.
Okay. I will say I'll go 2-1.
2-1.
Um, yeah, I will say LA Galaxy's defense has been pretty solid
Yeah.
recently. It was kind of shaky at the start of the year, but they have improved that a lot.
Uh huh.
So I do think this LA Galaxy team is a lot better than their record shows. I
They've
think they've been very unlucky, and they've lost a lot of games, and kind of in stoppage time and kind of on flimsy,
yeah.
mistakes and stuff.
They've
So it's not
also
like an easy game whatsoever.
Yeah, they've also kind of picked it up in these past 5 games that they've played. I think
Yeah.
they've scored a lot more goals. I think they've scored
Mhm.
7 or 8 goals in the last 5 games. So they are scoring against teams at least, even though they have been losing
Yeah.
games. They've won one out of their past 5, but they have scored. So LA Galaxy is a team that we do need to watch out for because I mean, a year ago this was the best team in the league. So sure they might not be in the same form, but they still have most of those same players. And I do think that LA Galaxy, Marco Royce, we need to shut him down once again
Mhm.
because even that last time they played LA Galaxy, what second week, Marco Royce was one of their most dangerous players, and if we can
Mhm.
shut him down, I think that we'll be fine. I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, and this is a team that we did play earlier this year. Obviously, we talked about this earlier in the podcast. We
Mhm.
did beat them 3-0. Even though the game was closer, I feel like than that scoreline indicated.
Yeah.
It's a team that we've beaten already this year, and now we're going home where we play a lot better. I feel like, yeah, if anything but a win, I think is a pretty big disappointment. I think for
Oh,
this game.
actually, yeah, I just checked FotMob. and Marco Royce might be out for this game actually. So he does have
Wow.
a
Okay.
injury till late June, a thigh injury. So
Yeah.
it is possible
He's
that yeah,
dodging St. Louis.
he doesn't want to play against Berkey again. Yeah, but yeah, I'm not sure if he'll play or not this weekend, but it's something to watch. But yeah, I do think that if we do come out with a commanding performance, I think that Critchley has enough to. He has what it takes to take this team down.
I think so, and this would be a pretty big moment. Because even though previous week was a disappointment, we feel like we should have came away with at least a point. Um,
Yeah.
Getting 2 wins in 3 games would be a very good start for Critchley.
Oh yeah, for sure. And currently we are sitting, I think, 8 points off of playoffs currently.
Mm.
So getting 3 points right here would be massive for us. At least to catch up to these like other teams, because looking at the standings here, LA Galaxy has 7 points. We have 14.
Mm-hmm.
And then Salt Lake has 15, Kansas City has 16, Dallas has 18, and Houston has 20. And those are all the teams that we're probably competing for, that we're competing against right now. Colorado and San Jose are sitting at 22 points, both that are currently in the playoff spot. So I feel like if we get 3 points right here and just hope that a couple of these teams ahead of us lose, we might be in a decent spot to kind of set up for this summer. But yeah, it all kind of rests on us winning this weekend. So this is a game that this is a must-win game.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't really have anything else to add.
I don't have anything else either.
No, but yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. And yeah, we'll come back to you next week, hopefully with a St. Louis City win. So we'll see you next week.